what is the brutal reality of entrepreneurship?
So I think probably the most brutal reality about entrepreneurship is that, entrepreneurship is not personal.
You have worked with many startups to reach a six-figure income very quickly. What is the formula behind such a hyper growth?
So, I think that question comes with a couple of different answers. It depends on the type of startup.
What if I tell you you can run million-dollar businesses in just 30 days? Yes, sounds unrealistic, but our today's guest has made multiple startups and his own personal businesses in just 30 days. And now he's earning $1 million. He is none other than Paul Claxton. Paul, thank you so much for your precious time.
Thank you for having me. I'm excited to be here.
The pleasure is all mine, Paul. When I was going through your profile, I came to know that you were a military guy, soldier, fighting battles in battlefields. But on the other side, you decided to become an entrepreneur. So, what was the driving force behind it?
Yeah, I get asked that question quite a bit. Quite honestly, it's a combination of several things. The biggest one being I just wanted to help people and try to build a company that could change things in a better way, that could make some of the things that I was frustrated with, whether it be in business or life, that could improve some of the things that maybe I was frustrated with, or areas that I had a certain amount of dissatisfaction with. So I wanted to take my experience and hopefully, add products and services that could help individual consumers and businesses. Some of the other things were obviously I wanted to make money. I think, as an entrepreneur, you can make more money than you've ever dreamed of if you do it right. And then there was a certain amount of curiosity um, and idealization of many successful entrepreneurs before me. Um, but I would say probably the second thing, after wanting to help people, but the second thing that drove me to become the second biggest thing that drove me to become an entrepreneur was the fact that I had a disaster. I was laid off twice in 1 year. I've been out of work for 6 months. And quite honestly, I was just tired of the corporate trap. I was tired of not having control over my own livelihood, being pinned to a desk for several hours a day, and that being my only, my only source of, um, livelihood refuge, so to speak.
Okay, so Paul, do let me know, like, what is one brutal, honest reality of entrepreneurship that people really discuss? Because we see a lot of businesses, they are burning out due to funds, they are not getting proper funding, right? So, what is your take on it? Like, what is the brutal reality of entrepreneurship, in your opinion?
So I think probably the most brutal reality about entrepreneurship is that entrepreneurship's not personal, but it is at the same time, right? So a lot of people that become entrepreneurs, uh, they take some of the hits personally. When the product says, we don't want your market, or when a market says we don't want your product, they take that personally. They take rejection personally, and you can't take it personally. But the thing is that being an entrepreneur innately is a personal endeavor. You're on a personal mission to build a company or a product that is, many people say it's, this is my baby. My business is my baby. It's like raising a child. But just like raising a child, it's a deeply, personal endeavor. But at some point we have to disconnect and disassociate, our personal motivations and our personal love for that child, for it, for our business. And we have to let that business grow in its own way and do its own thing. And as external factors may cause that business to grow and form differently. We just kind of have to keep it in between the lanes. And so helping that business navigate the market, but still stay in between the lanes at the same time, and not taking it personally, but realizing that is just the nature of the business, right? It's like when we talk about staying in the lanes, as entrepreneurs, we may have this thing mapped out, right? We think we've got it mapped out. And for as far as we can see ahead, you know, the road looks straight. It looks straight. But as we take as we go further and further into our journey, eventually we start coming across all these twists and turns. And for those that are unwilling to navigate and amend themselves to that journey, to that process, they're going to run off the road. So and again, you have, as an entrepreneur, you have to be just adaptable to that. And it's not you, it's just the nature of business. And I think that is probably one of the hardest things to accept, being a founder.
Paul, you have worked with many startups to reach a six-figure income very quickly. So, like, what is the formula behind such a hyper growth? Like, there are many businesses, I know personally many entrepreneurs, they cannot reach to their desired goals. So, how you are doing this? Like, what sort of mantra you have?
So, I think that question comes with a couple of different answers. It depends on the type of startup, the type of business that you're heading up, that you're managing. If you're building an engineer, like a product that requires engineering, then you're a tech company, a tech SaaS company, um, or even maybe a tech hardware company. But at that point, it becomes about the product, right? So you got to have a really good product team. You have to have a good product and engineering team. And then you have to have a QA, because you can't, quality assurance. So, like, you want to build a great product, but you also want to build a great product that doesn't have a bunch of issues. Like with AI, it's a great product, but for example, autonomous vehicles, great product, but there are tremendous amount of quality assurance and quality control issues that are being being experienced by multiple consumers that drive autonomous vehicles. So it's not there's still quite a bit of QA work that needs to be done, say, with autonomous vehicles, right? So the autonomous vehicles don't go rogue, right? So that they don't hallucinate, etc. I mean, people's lives are at stake. So I think when you're building products, whether it be SaaS products or hardware products, having a strong product development engineering team, but also having a strong quality assurance team, are going to be really important. Now, if you're building a consulting company, it's not, you don't have a product, but people are your product, right? So you don't have a tangible product with that you're selling on shelves or anything like that, but instead you're selling people, services, and processes. And you need the right people more than anything. um you need people that have a thick understanding of business, not just their industry that you're serving, but business in terms of um how other industries operate, how they interact, how they're interoperable with your core industry, right? So having a macro level view and understanding, but then having a micro level view, of your industry at core. And then those people need to be accountable for all matters, right? And so, because if you're consulting and you don't have people that are accountable and that have a diverse economic, uh, capitalist derived understanding of the economy, the neutral economy, et cetera, then, like, you're not a good consultant at that point. A great consultant can, uh, a great consultant can I would say kind of be like a jack of all trades, master of none. That's a great consultant. So a great consultant can come fresh into an industry and understand it at a very, very high level, you know, and they don't need to maybe, for example, understand the industry at a technical or a tactical level, but they do need to understand it at a holistic, level. It's kind of like commanders in the military. When a commander comes into a unit, he or she um, may not have the skills required to be a rifleman or an infantryman or to you know uh, go run a patrol or something like that, right? But he or she knows how to deploy and delegate appropriately, and he knows he or she has the strategic knowledge to know where to deploy teams and what their effective capabilities are, um, in terms of accomplishing the entire mission. So that's kind of like a consultant. It's kind of like one of those commanders, like a commander in the military, right? And so they're consulting at the broader level of the market, and they're working with, say, for example, companies that are specialized at their core, and guiding those companies to kind of navigate that road that I talked about, right? They're kind of like the navigators, so to speak, for those companies going down that road, that I talked about with all those twists and turns. Now, the best types of companies have both. So, say for example, Apple, um, they're a product company. But if I need support, I can go to the Genius Bar. I can call Apple, and those are essentially consultants that can talk with me about Apple's core products, but they know the device industry at large. They know who their competitors are. Um, they know how, say, for example, streaming services work, or like if I need to talk to them about an app, or why, like for example, the other day I was having an issue with my Microsoft account, which is completely separate from Apple, but they were able to help me fix the issue with my Microsoft account as well. So they have a very consultative, outlook on the industry that can guide me as a core user, so to speak. So it's better if you're both.
That is very appreciable. But now let's discuss the major thing. Like there are many startups, they are facing seed funding issues. They don't have proper team. They are lacking with the direction. So how to overcome all these initial challenges when you are trying to run a newly born startup?
What I would say is, sell, sell, sell. As a founder, you have to be able to sell. And selling isn't, like some Zig Ziglar book, or, you know, um, some seminar course about, learning about features, advantages, and benefits. It's not the Glengarry Ross movie with Alec Baldwin. Those are old school sales tactics, right? But today selling has changed a lot because we're dealing with more informative consumers than ever before, and they have more choices than ever before. So your job as a salesperson is to generate awareness, uncover hidden needs, and help educate people on, maybe if they're experiencing a certain problem or a challenge. Hey, here's some case studies in the market about like how other people have solved the very same challenge that you're having, right? So think about Reddit or Quora. Many times, or even troubleshooting forums online. It's a very consultative, um, online resource for people that may be troubleshooting an issue with their, email account or their laptop, etc. So you kind of become that Reddit, that Quora, so to speak, and you help people solve problems. They will pay you. People don't pay for products. They pay for anything that will solve their problem that they're dealing with and make their life easier. Whether that's a product or it's a person. You know, so I would say, if you're having difficulty, um, look at some of the problems that exist out in the market and just talk with people, you know, and ask them, like, if how would you solve this? Like, what if we did this? What if this existed? Would that could you imagine that helping you? Could you imagine that, you know, being a remedy for the challenge that you're having here, right? And so, the best thing that you can do is build relationships with people who have um, these challenges. Is it a common problem, first off? Because if it's not a common problem, then it's probably not relevant. The other thing is, when you're looking at building a product, don't build something that is more expensive than the cost of the problem. You know what I'm saying? So it's like, um, you know, don't don't give me, just for layman's terms examples. If I have an issue with my phone, don't give me a laptop when it's a phone problem, right? Like, that's overkill. You know what I mean? So don't give me an iPad when it's a phone problem. That's overkill. All I need to do is make phone calls. I probably don't even need a touchscreen phone at that point. Then maybe just an old school Nokia phone is enough. I don't want all the complexity of maybe a touchscreen phone, right? So, you know, don't provide a solution that is bigger than the problem at hand, especially a solution that is going to cost more. Obviously, a laptop will cost more than a phone, so don't offer a solution that's more expensive than the problem, because you're not going to sell it. People aren't going to buy it, you know. So, um, if I've got $100, if I've got $100 problem, then I'm not going to I am not going to necessarily pay for something that is, going to cost me $200. I'm not going to pay for something that's going to cost me $200. It doesn't make sense, because it's only $100. The problem is only costing me $100.
Mhm. So you are an investor as well. So you have experienced multiple startups. You have been working with them. So what are the early signs, like when a person a person like me, he's trying to pitch you a startup? I'm telling you the details about my product and services. So how will you get to know that this particular startup will get success or not? Like, how you identify?
First off, like, I want to say that, we invest in people, um, not products. So, products change over time, but a great founder should have an undying purpose, you know. Um, and that purpose needs to be a why. You know, um, we can look at great founders such as, common names like Elon Musk, Jeff Bezos, etc. What do they have inside of them that is unwavering, right? So it's the character of the person, because products will change over time, um, and products fail, they go obsolete, etc. So, we're not investing in products. We're investing in people that can maybe solve a problem for an an existing period of time, and of course we look at the product, um, but we're really looking at the person's ingenuity, their expertise in the market, how well they know the market, how well they care about solving challenges in the market. Have they experienced so many these things themselves, you know, and what their vision is, right? So not necessarily what the product is now, but what could the product be in the future? What do future versions of the product look like? You know, how can we potentially, take the product from, being I would say like a black and white version to something that has like, can we put a new paint job on it? Can we reshape it, so to speak? So that's important. So the founder's vision, if they have no vision, and the product's just flat, well, this is the product, right? And this is all a part of exit strategy, right? Like this is all a part of like future growth, you know. Um, do they want to be a profit driven founder or a growth driven founder? Because those are two different things. VCs invest in companies that are growth driven, you know, those can be acquired. But profit driven is great. You're making money, but it doesn't necessarily mean that your valuation is going to increase to a point where, okay, we can get acquired for this, right? Like, um, profit driven, that's great, but are you growing, so to speak? Anyone can make profit. So, and that profit may be high, it may be low, but ultimately what we're financing is growth, you know. So, I'm looking at founders that, you know, they have a vision, it's a growth vision, and you know, perhaps they have built a product, but what are the possible future versions of it? Can we build another product like it? Does the founder have that acumen in that team to build another product like it, but with some fine tuning, with some tweaks, with some variations, and solve other challenges? So a great example could be, say, for example, like say, let's just say Uber. Um, Uber's a pretty, for the user at least, it's very easy. It's not sophisticated. Of course, the back end is obviously very sophisticated. They're running large, algorithms and complex data structures, etc. But for the user, it's very straightforward, you know, and there's multiple use cases for it. So now we've got, and Uber really set the tone for this. Now we've got, on-demand rideshare. We've got on-demand food delivery. The logistics chain of urban mobility. You know, Uber has helped drive that, and so now not only do we have that, we have in America, like we have DoorDash. I know in the UK, I think there's something called Just Eat, and so Uber's kind of been they've been the real leader in that space, and it's about being a leader in your space, right? Like, so that would be what I would call a generational outlier. So I look for competence and relevance, to put it shortly, just to put it bluntly, competence and relevance. Um, but I also look for, founders that aren't afraid to build confidence. So, so when I say CONFIDENCE, building confidence through failure. Success doesn't build confidence. Failure, overcoming failure does. So I want to hear the bad stuff. I want to hear the gritty, the things that they've had to overcome, and then how they've overcome them. Why are they still here when most would have given up? And those things, I could say, okay, like, you've got competence here, you know, and the more competence you can build, by going through the process of building confidence, the more likely you're going to figure out how to build something that's relevant. And the more people are going to see that, and people are going to connect and have inspiration in you, and so you're going to have this connection with the market that is just like, it's going to be epic. Like, you're just going to have this epic interconnected weave with the market. And you're going to tell people are going to respect you, and they're going to give you quick, honest feedback. And the more you have that, the more likely you're going to be able to build products that are relevant, And if you could build products that are relevant and that are solve some sort of problem or challenge, make the world better, make people's lives easier, then that's really all entrepreneurship is. So that's what I look for. And then last, effort. You know, that's we need to have effort, right? Like I'm not looking for results off the bat, but effort. Like what are the things that the founder is doing day to day? Do they execute? You know, do they pass the buck off, or do they take the initiative and the effort to learn things on their own? Like, if you get an NDA or a low value, agreement or contract, something that's not binding, so it's not going to move the needle. It's not a big business deal or anything like that. And the first thing that you do is you get a lawyer involved. So to me, that resembles that there's a lack of effort and there's a lack of self-sufficiency in that founder. How are you going to build a company like that if you can't even decipher a contract? Like, I mean, how many term sheets and non-disclosure agreements, if you got to send that to a lawyer every day, you can't decipher that. That's the issue. So make the effort to understand, and make the effort to understand, and be able to comprehend basic contracts, like, because lawyers, I mean, you're just adding more expenses and time. Lawyers take time, and they stall processes, they slow things down. And then um in terms of relevance, the last thing I'll say is, um if your product is relevant, how scalable is it, right? Like, let's look at that. Like, so if customers can provide value to the market through your product, then, like, what is the domino effect of value? Like, is there a chain cycle of value? Like, say, for example, with Uber, Uber has multiple streams of value where their customers can provide value across the entire market. Like, so I remember, for my girlfriend, multiple times I've ordered Ubers for her. So, like, I'm a customer of Uber, but I can provide value to other people. Like, if someone needs an Uber, I can just order it, or if someone needs a food delivery, I can order it for them. So I'm a customer, but I'm not a direct customer. I'm providing value for other people. So, like, if your product allows you to purchase it, and then, like, allows the I'm sorry, if your product allows your first customer, to retail your product some sort of way, right? And provide value to other people, that's huge right there. So, yep. Does that make sense?